Welcome to the Study Skills video series. This introductory part is for the teacher or parent who's concerned about their child or learner's academic performance. I think that the videos in themselves will be highly beneficial, but please download them, the worksheets and the workbooks, so that the child can have the full benefit and I can continue making videos like this. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Uncle Jack. And we are already in the 9th sessions of our study skills module. And what I want you to learn in this session, I want you to overcome your fear of note-taking, because I remember when I was your age and people talked about note-taking, I always thought, I don't know what to do, how do I take notes? And so I had an irrational fear of note-taking. And I hope that after this lesson, you would have overcome your fear of note-taking. And then the second thing I want you to do is to master some basic note-taking principles. But you need to understand note-taking is one of those things you get better at it the more you do it. So without any further ado, let's get into it. The first thing is you must be note ready. In other words, before the actual class starts, before the physical lesson starts, you must be ready for the lesson and to take notes. And the reason for that is that the first sentence of the lesson is often the most important, because that's where your teacher is telling you what you are going to do on the day. They share the topic with you, and if you miss that, then you might sit in class and you are wondering, what on earth am I busy with today? If your teacher uses notes or you use a textbook, it is perfectly fine to ask the teacher if you find that you're not ready. Sir, miss, ma'am, please tell us where exactly are you teaching from, so that you can be on the same page as your teacher. So therefore, you have to be ready before the class starts. And then please remember that your notes are brief highlights, not essays. You're not writing an essay here. You're not trying to repeat everything that you have already or everything that the teacher says. You are just making brief highlights. I'm going to show you how to do that now. For instance, if you are in class and the teacher has handed out material for you, then what you can do is you simply underline the key points from the material, because you will be able to follow the teacher. And what will inevitably happen is that the teacher will focus on some sections and sessions in the material, and others will be skipped entirely. And then you know that the content that she focused on, that is indeed important, and the rest of the stuff you can basically ignore, because you need to remember that not everything that is in your textbook or that is in your notes are of equal importance. Okay, so you only are going to make a note, add a note for anything new. And then, very important, record the teacher's answers to a classmate's question, because you're all sitting with the same material, and now a classmate, especially if it's a clever classmate, ask a question. And the question is being asked because the information as it is being presented to you in the material is not crystal clear. And now the teacher is going to answer that, and you want to make a note of that, because then you will understand that a lot better. Now, what happens when you get home? I say there you must transfer your notes while they are still fresh. Now you're going to ask me, transfer it to where? And I'm going to tell you, please wait for the next slide so that I can tell you how this transfer thing works. Please, if you are now putting things in your second notebook that you are transferring your notes to, please use your own words so that you can remember it better afterwards. And then organize and review only your notes for exam. So if you do this well, if you have good notes that you have prepared after class, then that is the only thing that you will need to use before you write the exam. So, okay, now let me explain to you how this 2 notebook strategy actually works. So in the first book, that is where you take your daily notes and you work page by page. So you have a notebook, and when you're sitting in class, you're taking out the notebook. And then, say for instance, the teacher is doing what I'm doing here. She's using a PowerPoint presentation as she's going through it. Then you will see that she gets to a certain slide and she's focusing on that slide. Then your note will simply be focus on slide 3 or focus on slide 4. So because that specific slide requires a specific focus, and that is what you do. So you work on this book as you are in class. You're making notes on a day-to-day basis. Then when you get to home, when you get home after class, you transfer the notes as soon as possible into your book 2, and book 2 is subject organized summaries. So basically what you will now do, you will say, okay, so what did we cover in class today? We focused on 6 pages in the textbook. What did I do? I underlined some sections here. Okay, so if I now go and summarize only the portions that I've underlined, I see that I've reduced the 6 pages to 1 page. Now, please let me go and see now if on the slideshow that the teacher shared, if she added anything else. So now that you go and prepare, okay, I forgot this. Oh, no, she didn't. This is something new. I need to add this. And you see where it fits in, and you add that because you made a note of it in class. Maybe it is that answer to the question that your classmates ask, and then you add it in there. And this second book of you is organized according to subject. And please make sure you can even have a number of smaller books that is specifically for subjects. That's also perfectly fine. It's just that in the second book, you want everything to be organized so that when you have to study for a specific subject for a specific test or exam, you only need to focus on that part of the work. And the last thing you want to do now is to go and look for your notes. That is why it needs to be well organized. Okay, I've given you a couple of extra note-taking tips. They eliminate repetition, because teachers are just human, and we sometimes repeat something. Now, when we repeat it, it might be an indication that we think it is specifically important, and then you can put an NB in there or a little star or anything that you want to do to note that it is particularly important, but you are not going to write it down twice in your notes because you already have it. Why would you repeat it again? Just make reference to textbook. So if you're now seeing that entire section is important exactly as it appears in the textbook, then you can see textbook page 9, table 3. So then when you are studying and you get to that note in your notebook, you take your textbook and you go to that specific table in the textbook because you've indicated that that is important. Okay. Please ask about unclear content. So I said to you earlier, be ready to make notes if a classmate asks a question, but you must be that classmate to ask the question if any content is unclear. I always say to my students, just remember that when we author a book, we are often being paid per word, unlike what we are doing when we are preparing a slideshow like this. And if you are being paid per word, then you are not going to take extra care to make sure that everything you write is concise and clear. You will just put all the content in there because, hey, the people are paying you per word or per page. It's not a very good way of doing it. I think there are better ways of doing it, but for some of the books that I've contributed to, that was actually the way it was done, and then it still bothered me, and then I still went and rewrite it in a concise manner and actually robbed myself of some money while I was doing that. But it's my sickness, I care. Okay, and then also another note-taking tip is you please compare your notes with a friend's note, but only a friend that is actually also taking good notes. It doesn't help you share your notes with a friend that hasn't done anything. Then the guy is simply taking your notes and studying from your notes, and you're not getting any benefit. Okay. Well, I say not getting any benefit. Even if you give your notes to somebody that didn't do any work for themselves, they will still be able to give you some feedback. So sometimes it's not the worst thing in the world. And if you do share your notes, you are possibly going to be a very likable classmate, and people are going to get along with you. So that's your choice. You make the ethical decision there that you want to or need to make. And then at the end of this session, you are going to do activity 10. Your parent or teacher is going to read a one-page passage aloud. You are going to sit there and you're going to make notes, and you're going to try to make notes without repetition. And then your parent or teacher is going to ask you 10 questions. I've asked them in the facilitator's guide to prepare 15 questions and choose 10. So they're going to choose 10 questions, and then they are going to ask you those 10 questions. Now, for the purpose of activity 10, I do not want you to also sit with the one-page passage. Okay, I want you to only sit there and listen to the one-page passage and make notes as your parent or teacher is reading the one-page passage. Okay. Please, guys, you will find that as you do this, you will get better. The first time, you might find that you are still writing, and then she's already on another section, and you find a little lost. That is because you are trying to write too much. So you practice this, and as you practice this, you will be fine. And listen, the purpose of the 10 questions here is not to see if you can get 10 out of 10. It is to check your note-taking ability. So you're going to mark these yourself, just to reinforce the recall. That's a nice thing. If a teacher allows you to do the marking yourself, you are actually getting the correct answer to the question, and then make sure that you do that correction properly, and that when you get home, you transfer that correction to your second notebook as well. Okay, guys, that is lesson 9 and activity 10. And I trust that you will enjoy the exercise. See you next time.
Thank you for watching the entire video. Remember, study smart, not hard, and ask your parent or teacher to download the worksheet.